Welcome back to Economics, and we will be discussing money and the monetary policy today. This chapter will be dealing with money and how it is used for as a tool for stability and sustainable growth of our country. So, this chapter will also explain the government policies related to money and the government's attempts to control the supply of money in the economy. Okay, so talking about money, what is money? How is it important to us? Um, Money, by definition, is anything that can be used as a medium of exchange for goods and services. For any transaction nowadays in our generation, in our economy, a medium is used, which is what we call money. And this medium allows us to buy and sell anything that we think are useful and valuable or important to us. So without it, before, people are using a different method of exchanging goods and services. So let's go back to the history of money. This aman siya nagikan. Okay, so around at least 300 years ago, we are using the barter system. Barter system is a direct trade of goods and services. When we say direct, that's because direkta siya, wala siya medium nga ginagamit. Let's say, for example, rice in exchange of meat or table in exchange of chairs. May nga na siya. However, the barter system was displaced by the monetary system because the barter system is not efficient and it's also complex. For example, Manggod, if you are going to trade the table with a chair, you have to know the number of hours spent on making them. So let's say it took 2 hours for you to make the table and 1 hour for the chair to be completed. So there is going to be a problem with the value, no? So dapat duha ka chair in exchange of one table. So yung nga na complex na siya. So napalitan. And in early 1100 BC, China was using small replicas of tools and weapons as an exchange medium. So they were using that. But eventually, they changed it because these replicas of tools and weapons, they are sharp, no? Pwede silang masamad, pag ibutang nila sa ilang bulsa or sa ilang bag. So they changed it with something rounded. Um, And eventually, nahimo na lang yun siyang round, na mura siya coin like. And in 1000 BC, they changed it from the coins, nakahimo na sila og paper money. That's when Marco Polo visited. And then in 600 BC, the King Alyattes of Lydia minted the first official currency, which is coins, and they made the coins by mixing silver and gold. So mo na siya official currency nga nagamit. In Europe also, they were using metal coins as a medium of exchange until 1600 AD. But after that, they were already using paper notes, which are the same as what we are using now, right? And then in the 21st century, that is when the rise of cryptocurrency, virtual payments, mobile payments, virtual currency emerge, right? So nanatay Bitcoin, nanatay Ethereum, nanatay debit card, nanatay credit card. So those are still since they are still a medium of exchange, they are still called money. Okay? Now, money, as we have discussed earlier, is anything that we use. It is a medium for exchange of goods and services. But that pero dili lang na mao ang use sa money. Money is also used as a standard unit of account and as a store value. Pag mingon tag standard unit of account, meaning that's um na murag gigamit siya so that we can compare goods using a common system. 'Di ba? Makakuan mo $1 is equal to 50 pesos. So naa siya standard unit. Ang US nagamit og dollar, ang Japan nagamit og yen, ang Pilipinas nagamit og peso. So that we will be able to exchange because our currencies have different values man. So therefore, na siya standard unit. Okay? Right. So, like any other goods and services, money has its own market supply and demand. And according to ManQ in 2007, money supply daw consists of, there are two. One is the currency in circulation. Pag mayroon tag currency in circulation, these are the coins and papers nga naa sa imo. Naa sa imong bulsa, naa sa imong wallet, naa sa imong alkansya, naa sa ilawom sa imong katre, those are currency in circulation. The second one is the demand deposits. So, unsa man ning mga demand deposits, mao ning mga deposito nimo sa bangko. Kwarta nimo nga imong deposito sa bangko. These are balances that you can withdraw anytime, no? So, those are the supply of money, the currency in circulation and the demand deposits. Okay. So, naipangutana, is credit card part of money supply? Because credit card is used to buy, di ba? Is it part of money supply? The answer is actually no. Because people are using the credit card, they don't have cash actually. And the credit card does not have a corresponding bank account nga na ay kwarta. Credit card is used to credit, to utang, di ba? So, that is not part of the money supply. What is the difference between a credit card and a debit card? Kadungog na ba mo na ay credit card o na ay debit card? Pag mingon tag credit card is used to, it will allow you to borrow money from the card issuer, katong bangko nga nag-issue sa imong credit card, up to a certain limit in order to purchase items or withdraw cash. So pag nakay credit card, wala gina siya pondo, but you use that to make utang, to borrow money from the issuer. And naana siya yung mga certain limit na depende na sa kung unsa ka maayo mo bayad, so mo na imong limit. Or you can also use it to withdraw cash. Ang gitawag ana is cash advance. Di ba mura kag nag-cash advance sa imong employer. So dili siya matawag yun nga money supply. What about debit card? Debit cards allows you to spend money by drawing on funds you have deposited at the bank. So ang debit card is actually associated or connected to your bank account. 'Di ba kanang mga ATM nato kanang igamit nato pag withdraw. So kana siya, that's a supply money ang debit card because the debit card has a corresponding cash nga naa sa bangko. Okay? Imo man ang kwarta, di man ka pwede mo gamit sa debit card nimo pag shopping if wala na siya sulod. Unlike sa credit card, wala na siya sulod but makapalit ka because nangutang ka. Mo na siya. Alright? So those are that's the difference between the debit card and the credit card. The debit card is money supply, credit card is not. Okay, so let's go to the demand for money. 'Di ba? Humanta sa supply. What's the supply? The currency in circulation and the demand deposits. Supply of the demand for money. When do we demand for money? Una, we have transaction demand, we have precautionary demand, and speculative demand. So these are the three situations where we demand ng hinhanglan tag kwarta. Una, unsa man ang transaction demand? Transaction demand is kanang demand nato for money so that we can pay for products and services. So kanang demand nato to get money para makapalita. The second demand is precautionary demand. This is going to refer to the money that we need for sudden or emergency expenditures. Okay, nanginahanglan ta ani. Pangitahay na emergency, no? Na disgrasya na ospital, simbako. So, kinahanglan natin nato ning money, which is what we call precautionary demand. The last one is the speculative demand. This is used to approximate the loss of value of one's money, especially if it is held for investment purposes. So kanang mga ginagamit nato for let's say for example investment kanang mga VUL, mga mutual funds, stocks na siya. Those are speculative demand for money. Dili gid na siya cash pa, right? So those are the three forms of money demand. And now, how are we going to measure the supply? How are we going to analyze the supply of money or the quantity of money? We use the quantity theory of money. And how do we use it? So quantity theory of money was actually developed by economists as an essential model to describe the effect of the supply of money in the economy. So ginatan-aw niya ug unsa may epekto sa kadaghanon sa kwarta sa economy. Kung daghan ang kwarta, unsa may effect? Kung gamay ang kwarta, unsa may effect? Okay, so there is a mathematical representation of this. Um, that will be MV is equals to PQ, where M is the money supply, V is the velocity of circulation of money, P is average price level, and Q is quantity or real GDP. Okay, so M is the money supply, V is velocity. When we say velocity, velocity is the average number of times a peso or a money changes hands during a year. So, meaning, kapila balhin ang kwarta, ni ambak-ambak from one person to another. Illustrate lang nato. So, for example, nipalit ka og meat sa local market. Ang gibayad nimo ana sa tindero sa meat, kita ang tindero sa meat ni palit pud siya rice, no? So ang kwarta nabalhin na dito sa rice vendor or rice producer. So ang rice producer pod ang gihagamit niya gihimo niya sa kwarta is gibayad niya sa iyang trabahador. Okay? So another switch na pod. And then ang trabahador ni palit og isda sa palengke. Okay? So gibayad niya ang kwarta. Karon ang tindera sa isda ni palit na pod og meat and so on and so forth. So murag naga-circulate ba ang kwarta, no? Di wala nagpundo sa isa ka lugar. So mao nay gitawag nga velocity. Kapila nag-circulate ang kwarta. Kapila siya ni change of hands. And also, velocity of money varies with money supply, price changes, and output. So, nakadepende siya sa supply sa kwarta, sa changes sa price, o sa output. When the velocity of money is high, there is a low need for money supply. So, kung ang velocity kadaghan, no, paspas ang pag-ikot sa kwarta, kanang karong adlawan, siya sa imo. Sunod nga unyang hapon, to ana siya sa tindera sa mga sinina. Tapos unyang gabi kanang tindera gipalit niya na og sudan, di ba? Paspas ang pag-move sa kwarta. So mao na ang giingon nga high velocity. Pagpaspas ang high velocity kinahanglan nato og gamay ra nga kwarta supply. Small supply of money ra atong ginahanglan. Or we have a low need for money supply. Kay nga naman, na may nagaikot permi nga kwarta, para bang sa manindira ka, 'di ba? Pag tindera ka or nakay tindahan, mingon ka nga basta lang maka-rolling akong puhunan, maka-rolling. Meaning nakaikot siya. So bisag gamay ra imong puhunan pero naka-rolling, gamay ra imong tubo pero nag-rolling permi imong puhunan, okay siya, di ba? Gamay ra ang kwarta imong kinahanglan. However, if the velocity of money is low, meaning slow movement, dili maka-rolling permi ang kwarta, meaning kinahanglan nato og daghang supply sa kwarta. Kay ngano, dili man mo tuyok ang ekonomiya, ang economy pag walay nituyok nga kwarta, walay circulation of money. So that is the velocity. Now, what is P? Okay? So, P is the price level. When the price level is higher, then more sums of money are necessary. So kung taas daw ang price level, daghan ka ginhagkwarta, which means low po imong velocity or kinahanglan nimo nga pa taason ang velocity so that mo baba ang price level. Okay? Kay kung mingon gani tagdaghan imong kinahanglan kwarta, low ang velocity, di ba? Kay hinay man ang pag rolling sa imong kwarta. So kinahanglan nimo og daghang kwarta ana, daghang puhunan. Kay kung nagtindahan ka, gamay ra imong puhunan nang imong tinda hinay pa mag-rolling, bankrupt ang padulngan nimo ana. So, in analyzing the formula MV is equals to PQ, you have to note that the product of P and Q is equal to the nominal GDP. No, ganang pag P times Q. Hence, in this equation, money velocity is the ratio of nominal GDP to the stock of money. So, pag velocity itong gipangita, this will be the PQ or the nominal GDP over the stock of money. But if we want to know the money, that will be the PQ over V, over velocity. Okay, so let's try. Let us see how this is going to work. Let's look at an example. So, a firm has to pay his workers. Given that the price level is 20 and the output is 50, that's the Q. Okay, output is the Q. That's Q. Q is actually part of the GDP. Output ba sa kung tibuok nasod o kung tibuok country imong tan-awon mo na output mo na itong GDP. At what pay periods will the supply of money be low? Weekly or bi-weekly? So kanusa daw ang supply sa money low kung magbayad ba ka og weekly? Meaning kada semana. So sa isa ka buwan ka upat, no? 4 times ka magbayad. Or bi-weekly. Or every 2 weeks. So meaning sa isa ka buwan, twice ka. So ang imong weekly or bi-weekly mo ning velocity, mo ning kapaspas sa pag-rolling sa kwarta. So this is your velocity. So given, let's say for example, tan-aw na to kung mag bi-weekly unsa man siya, ang velocity nimo is equals to 2. Ngano man pag bi-weekly kada duha ka semana, so pila man na kabuok sa isa ka buwan? Duha, di ba? So 2, which is your velocity, m equals to 20, which is the price level, times 50, which is q, is equals to m is equals to 1,000 over 2. So that's 20 times 50, and then you move the velocity here. Algebra lang ni guys. And then m equals to 500. So meaning, if you pay on bi-weekly basis, you need 500 ka kwarta, no? Mo ni ang volume sa kwarta nga imong kinahanglan. Let's try the weekly. Pag mingon tag weekly, 4 times. So ang velocity nimo is 4. So if we are going to replace the 2 with 4, that's 4m equals 20 by 50. M equals 1,000 over 4. M is 250. So asa man daw sa duha? Balik ta sa question. What pay period will the supply of money be low? Ano si answer? Weekly, because on weekly 250 low ang imong money nga kinahanglan, on bi-weekly 500. So therefore the answer for this question is weekly. Mas paspas ang rotation sa kwarta, mas gamay nga kwarta ang imong kinahanglan. Alright, I hope that is clear. Okay, so moving forward, let's go to the monetary policy. So the government is actually um, making steps or policies to ensure that we will have a balanced economy, no? Dili tag inflation. Pag may tag inflation, taas kay mga presyo. Deflation pud gamay kay ang value sa atong uh, or sobra kababa ang presyo. So, kinahanglan ang role sa government, especially the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, is to make sure that the flow of money is balanced. So, ato na siyang i-compare kintahay sa isa ka drum of water, no? This is the drum of water. Sorry, dili ko kamao mo drawing of drum. But this is a drum of water. This represents water. This also represents water. This is the inflow, inflow, and this is the outflow. So let's say for example, your inflow diri rataman ang water. So this is too little, too small. Nga dili siya makaabot. So meaning ang kwarta pagbagsak diha, wala na siya ni rolling. So meaning kinahanglan na po ng gobyerno mag-print na po og kwarta para maabot niya ang ideal water level because this is the ideal water. Diri dapat siya taman so that pag pasok sa kwarta, mugawas siya, flow, free flowing, no? Magabalik-balik lang siya. So there is a healthy velocity, no? The right amount of velocity of money. But if the water is here, so sobra kadaghan, so nagprint kag daghan kwarta, nagprint og daghan kwarta. This is not also good in the economy because what is going to happen, it is going to flow uncontrollably. No, it cannot be controlled, which will actually cause inflation. So unsa man ang inflation again? Inflation is the what? What is inflation? Inflation is the increase in the price of goods and services over time. Nganong mang dili man maayo pag sobra kadaghan because it will cause inflation. Ngano mang daghan kay nangutana ani, ngano mang dili naman lang ingnon sa gobyerno, no? Dili naman lang moingon ang gobyerno sa Bangko Sentral nga pag-print mo og daghang kwarta para mangdato na tang tanan. The reason for that it's because of inflation. It is going to cause inflation. Pag daghay kwarta, ang mahitabuan na ang mga sellers, they are going to readjust their prices. No? I-readjust nila kay daghan man siya kwarta and you also as a buyer dili na ka mag-mind sa price kay daghan kay kag kwarta. So even if itaas nila ang presyo, kaya gihapon nimo kay daghan kwarta and that is going to pull everything up, no? Mag-domino effect man na siya. Mabira tanan pataas ang presyo because daghan kaayong kwarta. So that will be inflation. Mao nang dili magpataka og print ang Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas og kwarta. Controlled na siya. And naa sila yung mga ginahimo nga steps in order to control the supply of money. And that is what we are going to discuss next. The tools for monetary control. And there are three tools that the government is using to control the supply. Number one is the open market operations. In the open market operations, this refer to the buying and selling of government bonds or securities by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. So pag ibaligya nila ang mga bonds and securities sa public, it is going to reduce the money in circulation. So ginahimo ni nila if daghan kaayong supply sa kwarta which cause inflation. So pag naanay inflation, daghay supply nga kwarta. So ang himuon sa gobyerno ipamaligya niya ang bonds and securities para ang kadtong kwarta nga sa tao since mopalit man sila, i-hold na to sa Bangko Sentral, dili ni nila i-appeal sa circulation. So therefore, it is going to bring the inflation back to normal. Okay? So maunay open market operations. Maunay lang ginahimo. So Bangko Sentral is always on the lookout kung sa daghan ba ang supply sa kwarta kumusta ang atong inflation rate. Na siya kay you have to remember that whenever there is too much supply of money in the economy, that is going to cause inflation. And that is not what we are trying to do. No, the Bangko Sentral will always look at the inflation rate so that they will be able to do steps to control the supply of money. The next tool is the reserve requirements. So pag reserve requirements, these are regulations on a fraction of reserve that banks must hold against the deposit. So meaning the banks are not allowed to use 100% of their deposits for lending purposes or other purposes. So meaning kung ang bangko has 100 million, dili niya pwedeng ipautang na tanang 100 million. Kinahanglan niya mag-reserve. So duha ang pwedeng himuon ani sa Bangko Sentral. If lang na ay less money to lend, meaning they can increase the reserve requirement. So kung gusto nilang pabawasan ang supply sa kwarta, they are going to increase the reserve requirement. So pagkitahay mingan sila sa 100 million kinahanglan diha ang 20 million reserve ninyo. Then nakita nila that the inflation is slowly going up and there's a huge supply of money in the market. So what they are going to do, they are going to increase the reserve. Numingon sila sa bangko that you increase your reserve to 40 million. Ano siya? So, imbis nga 80 million ang pwede lang ipautang, mahimo na lang siyang 60 million. So, nabawasan ang money. Opposite pod, kung gusto nila o kung gamay ang supply sa money sa market, they can also decrease the reserve requirements. Para ma-decrease, para mudaghan ang kwarta nga circulation. So pag i-decrease nila, meaning from 40 million, mahimo na lang 20 million. So kadtong extra nga 20 million, pwede itong maipagawas, maipautang sa mga tao, sa mga business people, sa mga firms. That is going to add to the currency in circulation. Okay, so that is the reserve requirements. That is how it is used. Another one is the discount rate. Pag may discount rate, this is the interest rate on loans that the Bangko Sentral charges on commercial papers or mga pautang. So, pag may discount rate, that's an interest rate. Pag ang discount rate or interest rates are low, what normally happens is that daghan ang mangutang. So banks tend to borrow more or people tends to borrow more. Kay from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, pag iubos nilang interest rate, ang mga bangko mukuha og daghan, muutang og daghan sa Bangko Sentral so that naapos sila maipautang nga daghan sa ilang mga tao, ilang mga depositors. And in turn, ang mga depositors po, since mas baba ang interest rate nga gihatag sa bangko, then they will have the guts, no, na sila lakas loob nga mangutang pod kay mababa ang interest rate. Mo na siya. But if, let's say for example, daghan na kaig supply nga money in the market, what they can do also is they can increase the interest rate. So pag mutaas ang interest rate, muundang og pangutang ang bangko, magbawas siya pangutang. And then ang mga tao pod is muundang pod sila pangutang because taas ang interest rate. So that's the effect. That is how the money is controlled. No, the supply of money is controlled. Okay? So, another, or as mentioned before, ang objective manggod sa Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is to encourage economic growth and to maintain stable prices of goods. So, dapat i-maintain ang presyo sa mga goods and services by ensuring or by making sure that there is a low and stable rate of inflation. So, dapat dili man gyud malikayan nga naay inflation. Every country has inflation. Lahi-lahi lang atong inflation rate. Okay? So ang goal sa Bangko Sentral is to maintain, to have a stable rate of inflation. To achieve this, para mahimo makuan nila ang low rate of inflation, ang BSP has adopted an economic policy which is called inflation targeting. Okay? Pag inflation targeting, um, meaning they are going to announce a projected inflation rate. So pag mayong kintahay ang BSP, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, that our inflation target for this year is 4%. So therefore, everyone should be aware, no? Aware dapat sila, especially mga bangko or mga money markets or money institutions, monetary institutions, so that they will also be transparent para makita gid sa Bangko Sentral kung na-achieve ba or low or high ba sa targeted. So for example, if ang targeted inflation rate is below the actual level, so mayong kintahay nga 4% ang target but ang inflation rate nato is 2%, ubos kaayo. So therefore, ang unsay bubuhaton ani nila, ang mga bangko would increase their interest rate. No, i-increase nila ang interest rates nila para mugamay ang supply sa money and it is going to lower the inflation and vice versa. So pag taas pud siya sa target nato, ang 4%, 6% siya. So ila pong buhaton ana nila is, oh I'm sorry, if if ang interest rate or inflation rate is below the actual level, what they are going to do is they are going to increase the interest rate para mabawasan ang supply sa money. That is going to lower the inflation. Kabaliktaran pod, if ang target nimo nga or ang target nimong inflation rate is below the target, the banks would lower their interest rates or above the target. So there is an inflation. They're going to lower the uh, interest rates, which will encourage the investment and is going to raise the inflation rates. Okay? So, mo na siya pamaagi sa Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to maintain, to have a stable inflation rate and to also have a stable prices for goods and services. Okay, now your assignment. I want you to know, I want you to write an essay about this. Number one question is it better to use a higher inflation rate for inflation targeting? So, di ba, you remember inflation targeting, mo nag-target sa kuan. So, is it better ba kung higher nga inflation rate? Instead of 4, kintahay, 8 or 10. Is it better ba compared to lower inflation rate? Another one is, why can't government just ask the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to print more money? So, nga dili man pwede. Okay, so submit your answer next week.